I'm talking to Delaney Buffet and Katie Corwin about adult best friends. I got to see the film at Tribeca back in June and loved it. Like put you on my radar as creators to watch. Um, so let's get right into the film. You play characters named respectively Delaney and Katie.
Yes.
Clearly that's a deliberate choice. Tell me about inserting yourselves so authentically into this picture.
We wanted to write a movie about our friendship, and then we didn't know at first, are we going to be in it? Like, is it just going to be, are we going to cast it? And I think we just wrote it as Katie and Delaney because it was just fun for the writing process. It came naturally. And then it just kind of stuck. And then when we made the decision to play ourselves, which was because we wanted, it would be more difficult for it to get made, but also we wanted to have that authenticity, to have our hopefully chemistry from off screen translate on screen. And so we just kind of kept the character names. And also, it was just one last thing to have to remember on set because we were wearing a lot of different hats.
Like, no, you're Emily.
Yeah. So it was like, probably be like, call Katie Katie anyway, instead of calling her Emily, just because there was a lot going on. So I think it was definitely a creative choice and easier for us to slip into, like you said, that authentic role as ourselves. But also, I think it was a little lazy sometimes too.
So it started as placeholders, and you're like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, let's keep it. Like, we don't have time to think of the names.
It's good. Print.
Right. As you said, you wore many hats. You both co-wrote the film. Delaney, you directed, you star, you co-produce. So this was clearly a very personal project. Did you receive a lot of support when you went to put this project to screen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we always wanted to make it, Marie Nikolova, who is our producer, who works for Zachary Quinto, who's also in the movie, they have been supporting us for a while. We've worked with them, and they were, on the project from the start and just incredibly helpful in the casting process, in sending it around, in notes creatively. They were very supportive of us being in it as ourselves. And, Marie and Zach, Marie reached out and got most of the cast who weren't already our friends, and Zach also reached out to people, which was a big deal for a small movie. So we had a lot of support from them and from our friends, and the cast and the crew. A lot of them were already our friends, our DP and our AD. I had relationships with them, working relationships. So from the beginning, they were like, we want to make this because we want to help you and Katie and Marie and work together and make something great, because it was basically everyone's first feature in the crew.
Yeah.
In the position that they were in. Kind of. There were a couple people, it was maybe their second or their third. But it was everyone's, at the beginning of their career. And so everyone's excited and supporting each other. So we were very lucky in that. And that kind of was the attitude throughout the set process, which, set's a very stressful place. So to be able to have friends and make it as fun as possible and just be really supporting each other throughout, and like, okay, if you don't have the time to do this, I'll pick up that slack, and vice versa. So we had a lot of support.
I would say, and in addition to cast and crew, just the people in our lives, like, knew how long we've been trying to basically make something.
Do you have other friends?
And no, all our friends.
Okay.
And so when push came to shove, it'd be like, we need locations to shoot this. People volunteered their homes. We need extras for a wedding scene. Let me call my coworkers. Like, everyone honestly pitched in and helped us in ways that made such a difference, and in ways that they absolutely did not need to do.
And still, by the way.
And still, yeah. I mean, we're spamming everyone on social media. Every time someone shares it, that's someone supporting us and helping us when they don't need to. So it not only made a difference, I mean, I'd say it made it possible.
You said that you wanted to capture your real life friendship. Now, in the film, it opens when Delaney and Katie are teenagers at a little party. Have you two known each other that long? Is that indicative of your true spanning friendship?
Yeah, that's how we met. We were 10. We were 10 and we were at a birthday party, and I was upset. And Katie came in and like tried to check on me, and then we kind of became friends since then. So we've been best friends since we were 10.
Delaney, tell me about the characters of your roommates. Is that also drawn from real life?
Cassie David plays my roommate Roxy, and she does such a funny job. She's incredibly funny writer and director and actor. She actually has a movie out called I Love You Forever, which she wore many hats in. So I already knew she's a super talented person, and she has a very specific kind of comedy. And I think we were trying to create a foil in that there existed a person who was even more negative than me and more pissed off at the world. And so Cassie does deadpan very well. And so we just wrote this character who was younger than me just to make me, seem even more immature, but also that was just even as mad at the world as I am. So I definitely think those people exist. There are a ton of people in my life that bring out some negative qualities that fuel my negativity and judgmentalness. So it wasn't one specific person, but it was like that kind of person that, fuels your fire and is not always a positive influence.
I think the film has a great message about Arrested Development and being a friend to someone who is struggling at growing up, because there's the impetus to support them and say, hey, take your time at your own pace. But then there gets to that point where you have to shake them like a rag doll and say, grow up. Katie, did you have a moment like that with Delaney in real life, or is this a little cinematic fun?
Thankfully, no. Every friendship has times where you're like,
Yeah.
Come on, like let's get a grip kind of thing. But in terms of our actual friendship, there's never been like an ultimatum of any kind. I think Delaney has a really high EQ, higher than mine, and
I don't think
we've
so.
both, okay, they're both high, and we've both like had so much therapy like in our lives that we're very, very communicative with one another, as opposed to just like secretly, being mad. And I think a big thing, and the older we get, we remember like you can't set expectations for people and hold them to those when they weren't involved in you making that decision. So you can't ask someone to rise to this or sing to this when they just might be on a different page. And if what you really care about in the relationship is just spending time with the person, just having that connection, then you don't need to place expectations on them. Just let them be who they are, and sometimes you'll be closer, sometimes you'll be further apart, but as long as you are kind to one another and like make the effort, it'll work out.
When I was describing this film to a gentleman I do a podcast with, and I had seen it, he hadn't, and I was describing it to him. He said, "Okay, so it sounds kind of like Sideways," and I said, "Well, kind of like
I love
Sideways,
my face.
Sideways meets Bridesmaids, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of irreverent humor, even scatological at times. Tell me about balancing the humor and the drama."
Oh, that's funny you said, because I remember what our deck, like the references were Sideways and Bridesmaids and a few other things. I think so much of the tone came together in the edit. I think we set out to make a hard comedy. It was more emotional than we thought in certain scenes. And I think when I was, in the edit with our editors, I was like, oh, wow, this is an emotional moment. Like, I don't want to take the wind out of it with humor or stuff like that. Let it breathe and let it feel like a conversation you would have with your friends. So it was difficult to balance the tone. I think it's really hard to mix anything in with comedy because you don't want to you know, provide comedic relief when there shouldn't be, or where do you put the comedic relief, or should you end something with a joke? But I also think we don't ever, in real life, we don't take ourselves too seriously. So I think we didn't want the movie to take itself too seriously. We always knew going in it would be a simple comedy, romantic comedy between friends. So we just wanted it to feel as easy as possible. And like, yes, there are serious moments, but also we're aware sometimes if they feel ridiculous, and I think some of my favorite movies are, and types of humor are very self-deprecating, but very self-aware. So I think we really wanted to create that tone. Sorry, that's a long-winded answer, but I always think about tone and how difficult it is to hit.
Absolutely, that's why I asked, because the film does a great act of balancing comedy and drama. Like I was saying, like I got a little choked up at the end. Like there's some really impactful moments in here. but it's also laugh out loud moments. Let's go back to Zachary Quinto. I was trying to explain his character to my wife. I was like, he's a poet who keeps trying to encapsulate what's going on in a couple of sentences, and it's a lot of false starts, and everyone's like, just shut the up. But it's still very endearing. Tell me about that character. Where did that come from?
Zach helped us develop the character, which made a huge difference, obviously. Have been lucky enough to work with Zach previously in developing scripts. So we had a working relationship, and just from that, we know how naturally funny he is. Like, he's known for dramatic roles, but he himself is so funny. So we were really, really excited to like maybe have the opportunity to have him play a comedic role in the movie. And we basically wanted to, similarly to Delaney's roommate, you know, kind of creating a foil. We wanted to create a foil for Katie as well, with someone who, instead of never saying what they think and never getting mad at someone who always is mad at someone, you know, who never takes accountability, just the exact opposite. And someone who will really force Katie to finally speak her mind, like even if it's an eruption, you know, it does get there. The poet's mustache was all Zach. We can't take credit for that. And he, I mean, he's so talented, and I've never seen someone improv as the character. I've seen someone improv, like anyone can do that, just think of something funny to say, but doing it as the character was like so incredible to watch. And I will say it's my favorite character because everyone that we're related to who has seen the movie will be like, is that me? Like, no, why would you think that? Like everyone that we know that we're related to is like, so I'm the brother, right?
And I also think we wanted to touch on, like, there's such an, in my opinion, in our opinion, people are really love to throw around the word narcissist now and throw around all these therapy words. And like, it's so funny when you're at a table and people are just like armchair diagnosing. And so that was sort of playing on that as well. And we were like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if like his wife is a therapist, so he then thinks he has the authority
he picks
to
up
like
the vocabulary.
So it was like a really fun like a amalgamation of like a lot of Zach's ideas, and then like what would be funny, like it is such a thing people do now, and everyone's a narcissist, and not to discount that there are a lot of narcissists, but I think we loved just sort of playing with that like idea of someone thinking that they are a therapist when they have no qualifications whatsoever.
Well, he overheard lots of sessions.
Yeah,
so yeah, it's kind of like learning on YouTube.
exactly.
Let's talk again about balancing drama and comedy and not trying to take, you know, the wind out of the sails of powerful moments. The film is dedicated to Jimmy Buffett. Some of his songs are in the film, his beers in the film. Was that a conscious decision from the beginning to pay homage to your father, or did that sort of come naturally?
Well, he passed like a week after we wrapped. So I think it was, and we shot at Mississippi where he was from and born. So I think I always would have, you know, included some thank you to him. But when he passed, I think it, you know, there was a heavier weight and I wanted to pay a tribute to him. I always would have put his music in there in a subtle way, but I think I ended up adding a couple more songs and sort of wanted to pay tribute to him, but that kind of came later on. And I think it was even at the suggestion of someone said I should do it, and then I was like, I think it, like, he really didn't like bumming people out, and I kind of feel like if I put it right after the end and it was just like in memory and bummed everyone out, he would be even more upset. So I consciously allowed the bloopers to play and then put kind of that at the very end. So who knows, people see it during streaming, but I knew that it at least would, when we were doing festivals, it would show, and that's what mattered. I knew that he'd be more upset if he was bumming people out at the end of the movie before Corey danced. So but yeah.
Well, again, it's not a bummer. The movie's hilarious. As I said, this put both of you on my radar as someone to watch because it's such a strong opening. Like it's out of the gate, just a great movie. So tell me, what are you working on now?
Well, we have a new script for a comedy that's kind of a more I don't want to say more traditional rom-com because the world that it's set in is not very traditional, but it's just a larger scale movie. It's a bigger responsibility. So hopefully if Adult Best Friends gets traction and popularity and people can see that we didn't totally mess it up, they'll give us the chance to make this movie on a larger scale.
Yeah, I think we want to keep making comedy, and we would love to make comedy, yeah, bigger movies with more resources, and that's what we love to do, and hopefully television one day. So, but yeah, I'd love comedy, and so to be able to keep doing that would be amazing.
What are some of your influences and heroes in the realm of film and television comedy?
Tina Fey.
Tina Fey is
The big one. I love 30 Rock. We
important.
both love 30
Yeah.
Rock. It's my favorite show. I've seen it probably 9 times through. I just think I think specificity in voice is so interesting. Like even like Arrested Development 2 is such a specific comedic voice when I rewatch it that I'm just like, oh, this is so funny. How do they think of this? So I think people really like have that. It's such a unique thing. And when I'm watching 30 Rock 2, I'm just like blown away by the joke writing too. And yeah, she's a big one. I'm trying to think of any.
I mean,
others.
there's so many. Kristen Wiig, Julia Louis-Dreyfus,
Yeah.
like those are all, people that are contemporary.
And I think for me, like director-wise, like I love Mike Nichols. I love Birdcage is my favorite movie. I think The Graduate's so great. He is incredible at balancing humor and heart. I think he does such a good job with that. So, that's someone who I really think makes the kind of movies that hopefully we want to keep making.
Excellent examples. I love Mike Nichols. I watch The Birdcage at least once a year, and
it is so good.
Yes, it's fantastic. It's and if you haven't read Bossy Pants, Tina Fey's book, yeah, so good, so good. All right, well, that is our time. Thank you so much for talking to me, and best of luck with the release. And hopefully, I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Eric. Really appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
This is the BTRP Media Network.